All right, we've got Scott with us now. We'll go ahead and get started with questions for him with Colton.
Scott, we were talking with Coach Leonard about you and Collin Wilder kind of playing off of each other. What do you think maybe that you don't do as well that he helps you kind of pick up on, then vice versa with him and you?
I think Collin's play speed and effort to the ball is definitely something I admire and can strive to be better at each day. I think it's kind of a standard that he sets, and I can definitely do a better job of that each play, just finishing each play and kind of not holding back for the next play, whether it's in practice or a game, but just finishing each play. And then I just think I've had an extra couple of years, I think, in the defensive system, and kind of have a he obviously came from Houston and had a whole different scheme that he had to learn and stuff like that. So just helping each other, whether it's with plays or something like that, we can always bounce questions off of each other and really help each other have a better understanding fully, and then kind of work disguises and stuff off of that as well. So it all kind of works together.
Jeff?
Scott, obviously you played all the full season, 7 games last year after coming off that knee injury. But I'm just curious, were you completely recovered physically and mentally by the end of last season, or did it still take some time in the off season?
Yeah, I was good. I think I took a couple weeks off, maybe a week or two off after the season, just to kind of relax and let any bumps or bruises that I had heal. But as far as any major injuries, I was definitely good. And it was tiring. It was a long process of, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? All right, we're playing. Just kidding. They canceled it. Never mind, we're back playing. So that was kind of the worst part, I think, was just it just felt like we were just chasing a carrot kind of type of thing, and never really figuring out if we were going to have a season or not. But once we were going, just tried to make the most of each game. Like you said, we didn't have too many of them, but the ones that we did, just trying to take advantage of those.
Jesse?
Scott, when you watched yourself on film after last season, what did you feel like you wanted to work on as you went into this offseason?
I think the one thing that me and Coach Leonard talked about was cleaning up my footwork. I think a lot of it, sometimes I just kind of freestyled it and just working on a steady pedal, get into a challenge, crossover, and then clean breaks. I think was another thing, not hopping around as much, because I can tell even in practice now when I hop, I get myself in trouble. So cleaning up my footwork was another thing, or was the main thing. I think open field tackling is always a work in progress for anybody who plays in space in positions we do. So consistently trying to make that easier and smoother, and then just finishing plays, trying to put yourself in position where you can cheat the offense, basically understanding film study and what they do, to where you can give yourself an advantage and understand when you see something, something else will be coming off of it, and you can get a really good break and hopefully make a play. Just kind of what we did in the bowl game, and hopefully just kind of carrying off of that.
Steve?
Collin was talking about what you said, play more like the bowl game, and he was talking about getting more takeaways like you were able to do against Wake Forest. I was wondering, how do you kind of emphasize that in the offseason to become a better team in terms of making those game-changing plays, whether it's getting at the quarterback or making more takeaways?
I think as a defense, we can kind of sometimes it might be a little skewed in practice because the quarterback's obviously not live, so we don't really get pressure situations, and it feels like we're covering for a very long time sometimes, when in reality the ball is going to have to get out quick, and we might be in a better position 1 second ago compared to the quarterback holding the ball one more second, because there's no pressure, he's not going to get hit. So kind of understanding that games will work with practices, and working on finishing the play whenever you get a chance to get your hand on the ball, whether it's a PBU, and turning PBUs into interceptions by cleaner breaks, and turning bad breaks into PBUs because of how you finish on the ball, and finishing through his hands, I think is the main thing, and not really settling for just getting PBUs, but getting those game-changing interceptions and forced fumbles, anything like that, where you can get a turnover. steal the ball from the offense and give it to your offense and get another chance to score, I think is huge.
Jake?
Scott, I know being paired with Collin's one thing, but looking at even behind you too, like when you're paired during practice with someone like John Torchio or Travian, or you have Preston Zachman too, what do they bring and complement to your style? What have you seen from them during spring ball?
I think they all are very different, but special players. I think kind of going through, Torch is a guy who really understands our system and puts himself in positions to make plays, and he's made a lot of plays this spring. Trey is a guy that not many people know about, but I think they will very soon, just because he's a very, very talented player, and he's just the more he's able to get reps and understand the scheme as well as he has this spring. You can see him taking steps. Preston obviously is newer to the position, but you can kind of see the development, and you see his ability to understand the defense moving from linebacker to safety. Some people might think that transitions, or some people might make that transition very difficult, but he's done it very smoothly. And obviously he goes up and talks to Coach Leonard. He'll talk to me, Collin. He'll talk to anybody who's been there longer and try and learn more. And he's very coachable and open to getting better. And then Mays is a guy who's really accepted doing anything to help us. And he's gotten really clean breaks. I think this spring is something that stands out to me, and put himself in a position where he can go and we can trust him playing nickel in some situations, which is not easy to do for some people who don't play football. Nickel is not an easy position. So I think up and down the room, it's fun to see the development this spring, and I think it'll just continue on. It's a very close group. I think we're all really good friends. We joke with each other all the time, and being able to have that conversation and helping each other. Like there's no animosity with asking a question or seeing if they can do something better. So I think it's a really solid group.
We've got time for a couple more. We'll go back to Collin. We'll go back to Colton.
Scott, Coach Leonard was talking about how every safety in the group needs to find a kind of a second position or a second role where they fit in and can help the defense when you go into some different packages. Where do you think that second position or second role is for you? Where do you feel the most comfortable?
I like to claim that I play nickel. It's used in sparing situations just because Coach Leonard doesn't want it to get to my head. But I think we're working on a couple of different packages where kind of getting the safeties over the ball or getting them down in the line of scrimmage and putting them in positions where we can have kind of a safety playing a linebacker position and just be a little more athletic in some situations. I think is something Coach Leonard is always working on and scheming up. I think it's something his mind never stops working and trying to figure out how we can, maybe a little biased, but how he can get safeties in positions to make plays. And as a safety, you got to love that and appreciate that. So there's some stuff he's got in the works, and we're learning and walking through now more and more each day, whether it's literally in a walkthrough or a couple reps here and there in practice. We're working on disguises and actually executing the technique. So as much as I'd love to say nickel, it might be just a couple reps here and there, just to fill in and give Fayon a break, but that's about it.
All right, we'll wrap things up for Scott with one more from Jeff.
Yeah, Scott, obviously last year was a different year for everybody with COVID, but I'm just curious, if someone were to ask you why this team is going to be better in 21 than it was last year, what reasons would you give them?
I think the first thing that comes to mind last year, and I mean, you can't really blame anybody, but it is very tough for freshmen to kind of meet the older guys and older guys to meet the freshmen and really become like a team. Like I missed pretty much all of camp, and I came back and there was a bunch of freshmen I never seen before. So we didn't get to work out with them in the summer. we didn't get to practice with, I didn't get to practice with them in camp. And throughout all of this, it was so much like, yeah, if you want to, or it's voluntary, it's optional, stuff like that. Where now, like, that's kind of in the past. Like, you're all in or you're all out, and we really don't want, like, if you're not all in, you're welcome to leave. This isn't something where we're just gonna carry dead weight around and have people act like they want to be here. So if you're here, you better be all in and willing to do whatever it takes to reach our goals as a team. We're just talking about that today, just short-term sacrifices for long-time goals and stuff like that. So just having everybody all in and becoming a better team, I think is something that'll actually be able to be executed in this off season and then show very clearly in the fall. It kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago, 2019, where it's just kind of like draw a line in the sand. You're either with us or you can leave. It's pretty simple.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. We've got Collin with us now, and we'll get started with questions for him with Jesse.
Collin, when you decided to come back for another season, I'm sure you knew there'd be even greater opportunities with Eric moving on. What did you tell yourself you wanted to improve on to give yourself the best chance to maximize this year?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Leonard had a great quote one time, is like, the beauty about football is you never get there. You know, there's always something to work on. There's always something to improve on. And I mean, for me, I mean, it's really just building myself as a leader for this group. You know, I have plenty of experience at this point, and it's you know, just continuing to craft the footwork and the tackling and to make sure that I'm bringing other guys along with me at this point. I understand the scheme. I understand the defense. Now it's trying to bring guys along and make sure we're all getting better together as a group. But for me personally, I mean, I know I have to have a big year. I know that this is probably the most important year of my career personally. So, I mean, everything that really that, I mean, I can really think of is mostly just attacking the football and maximizing the opportunities on the field. I mean, I had a couple plays last year, but finishing, obviously, getting in the end zone on interceptions, and there are a couple balls too that I could have made mine, you know, during the year. So attacking, you know, certain plays and finishing certain plays is probably the top of my list.
Jeff?
Collin, a couple of your teammates have been asked this over the last couple of weeks, but last year was a weird year, COVID, a lot of injuries on offense. If someone were to ask you why this team is going to be better in 2021 than it was last year, what reasons would you give?
Well, I think a lot, you know, we learned a lot last year, you know, as a group. We learned a lot about guys who are back and guys who decided to come back. We learned a lot about ourselves. We grew. I think, you know, the biggest thing this year is there's not separate groups in the locker room. You know, what I really like this year is everybody is so close. Everybody's willing to talk to each other about things going on the field, things going on off the field. Leaders are not necessarily, you know, leading out of fear. You know, they don't want guys to respect them out of fear, but I mean, we just want them, we want leaders to be able to lead out of love, and we want guys to be able to follow out of love. And I think that's really the biggest difference that I've seen this year, is guys are just so much closer, and you know, we just got to implement that onto the field also.
Colton?
Collin, we've seen you and Scott play quite a bit together with that top safety group. What do you think you guys do well, kind of playing off of each other? Like, what do you think it is when you guys are on the field that you guys feel most comfortable?
Yeah, it's very easy to communicate with Scott. I mean, I could go on and on about that. Scott was, you know, probably my first best friend when I got up here. And I mean, we've been, seeing each other, we've been kind of latched on wherever we go each day ever since. So he's my roommate. So, I mean, of all the things that we do on, you know, off the field together, when we get on the field, it's very easy to be on the same page. I mean, if we have questions, I mean, we're bouncing, you know, questions and answers off of each other. And I mean, when we screw up, I mean, it's like, we know when one of us makes a mistake, and I mean, it's very easy to coach each other up and to learn from. And that's why I'm really excited about this year, getting to play more with him.
Steve?
Just wondering, you talked about how this team, what gives you confidence this team can be better, but I'm just wondering about the defense specifically. How did you feel about the way y'all performed last season, and where do you think there is room for improvement on that side of the ball?
Yeah. I mean, the defense, I mean, by the numbers, I mean, the numbers look good overall when you talk about overall defense and, the stats. But I mean, at the end of the day, we got to take the ball away. And I didn't think we did a great job of that, including myself. I talked about that already. We did it. What we did in the Mayo Bowl is what I wanted us to do all year. And we didn't necessarily do that, especially when we needed it the most in the big games. So, that's the biggest thing that we need to improve on as a defense, is just taking the ball away. And I'm really excited about the guys we have, the guys who've shown up this spring. The DBs, Alex Smith has really stepped up. I really love the way he's been playing. Dean Ingram, love that guy. Love the way he plays. He's so tenacious. And then, CJ Getz, he just really shines each day at practice. I love the way he plays. And then up front, Rodas Johnson, Gio, all those guys are really starting to show up too in the pass rush game, which is, obviously on the stat sheet last year is what we were missing too. And I mean, I really believe that these guys are going to get after it in the fall.
Back to Jesse.
Collin, what have you noticed this spring about some of the guys who are trying to get into two deep at safety, specifically Travian and your experience being around Titus, those two guys?
Yeah. Trey, I mean, he's really stepped up, in the last year or so is a guy who just comes in and he's got a great desire to learn, and he's a physical freak when he's on the field. I love the way he competes. He definitely brings a lot of energy to the room. And then when it comes to Titus, I mean, he's been battling some injuries here and there, and we understand that. And, but Torch has stepped up this spring. I think he leads the DBs in picks this spring. He's done a great job. I think he's very overlooked, in this whole two deep. I mean, he started for us in 2019 with me, stepped up big for us, and then last year limited plays, still made plenty of plays. And then come the spring now, I mean, he's making probably the most plays out of all the safeties this spring. So I really love the way Torch plays as well.
Back to Colton.
Collin, Coach Leonard was talking about how every safety needs to have that one extra thing. Like, can you play like as a linebacker or in the nickel? What do you think that is for you? What do you think that extra thing on top of playing safety is for you?
Yeah. I mean, we're all learning really the outside linebacker position right now. I think we end up being in that spot in a lot of our plays. So for me, I would say that, that's the biggest position, because if we're coming off the edge, or if we have to hold an edge, especially against a bigger body, like an offensive tackle, the footwork is key in that, footwork in your hands. And, we've been working that a lot during the spring, but I think I'm probably in that position the most out of probably, the nickel position and inside linebacker outside. I mean, we're everywhere, which is what I love about this scheme that Coach Leonard has us in. But outside backer, that position, that footwork, I feel like that's one that I can always work on, because I'm in it the most out of the whole grand scheme of things.
All right, we'll wrap things up for Collin with one more from Jeff.
Yeah, Collin, you mentioned your relationship with Scott. One thing you guys can definitely relate to is the knee injuries and what it's like to try to come back from that. Jim was saying that he sees Scott completely back now, being another year removed from that knee injury in 19. I'm just curious, for you, since you had a similar injury, what's it like mentally to try to get past that? Do you get to the point where physically you're the same player, if not better?
Yeah, it's a mental game, probably just as much, if not more, physically, when you're battling and finally trying to get to where you wanted to be, get back to normal, I would say. And, I would say, for Scott, he's done a great job of of just like he hasn't even watched the play from when he tore his knee. And I think for him, that's a great thing, because mentally, I mean, if you see that play over and over in your head, I mean, you might, play a little less, less aggressive in certain things. I mean, he doesn't let that, bother him, or he doesn't let that, even get into his mind. So he's done a great job of that. And then just playing. And, I would say he's 100% back. I don't even think, I forget that he has knee surgery sometimes. So, I mean, really the difference is just making sure that you can just go full speed, full aggressive. And, once you're, playing full speed, in an actual game, that's when you really know. And Scott has really stepped up last year as a, physical tackler again. And, I love to see it. I'd say he's back.
All right. Thanks, Collin. Appreciate your time. All right. We've got Trey with us now, and we'll get started with questions for him with Jesse.
Trey, what are some of the injuries you've dealt with during your career here? And what do you think you can add to the safety group when healthy?
I've had a lot of injuries while I've been here. I'm not gonna lie. Came in, played the first 4 games of my freshman year, true freshman year, and then ended up messing my hamstring up, ended up having to get surgery. After the season was over, trying to battle back, but just wasn't able to get around that curve, and had to get surgery on that. And then the next year came back, was feeling good for fall camp, and messed my hamstring up again. And it really just was nagging all through the year. Didn't really get to play much that year either. And last year was my first opportunity to really actually get some playing time and get some action, and really just battling through a lot of stuff. But in terms of just contributing to the safety group, I feel like, with me, I'm starting to learn the defense a lot more. I'm starting to get some action, get some practice reps and things like that. So I feel like just being able to contribute to them boys, like Scotty, Collin, they do a great job. EB did a great job while he was here, and just being able to learn behind those guys and just piggyback off of what they do and just continue to push this program forward.
Jeff?
Yeah, Travian, I know you guys don't like talking about injuries, but just one more question about that. You look to be playing well in the spring in the practices we could see, and it looked like you turned the ankle last week. What's running through your mind when you're playing well and you're going to have to miss more time again?
It's definitely frustrating for sure. But I could say that this ankle that I'm dealing with is nothing compared to what I've had to deal with before. So I'm optimistic about it, and we have great trainers downstairs, and they do a great job of, I get in every day, they give me something to do every day, and it's getting better. It's continuing to get better, and this time that we have off after spring is over, just being able to rest a little bit, go back home with my dad and train with him, and I'll be ready for the summer. But it is frustrating. I will say it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, that's the game of football. So you just got to move forward from that. So.
Colton?
Trey, a couple of times we've talked to Coach Leonard this spring. He's mentioned you alongside with Latrell Jamerson and the versatility and the athleticism that you guys had. You can do a lot of different things. What's that comparison mean to you, knowing what Jamerson did here and getting to the pros?
Oh yeah, it means a lot. The more you could do, the better. And Jamerson did a lot for this program. Just being able to be all over the place. I think he moved to safety like his senior year, and then ended up making it to the league just because he knew the defense and he was able to use his athleticism and play wherever he was needed to play at. And now obviously being able to make it to the league, that's a goal of mine. And if I can get compared to somebody like that, I'll take that all day. Just being able to be anywhere and contribute to this team however I can on defense, special teams, and anywhere I'm needed.
Steve?
I know you mentioned training with your dad. I was just wondering who's kind of helped you the most and what advice you've gotten just in terms of having to deal with kind of the obstacles you've had to face over the years with the injuries and things like that. Who's kind of kept your spirits up and kind of helped keep you going?
Yeah, sure. My dad is a huge contributor to that. He also has some hamstring stuff in high school and some things like that, and he always gives me like tips and different things like that to try to get better and get better faster. He has a training facility in Houston, Texas, and so he has a lot of resources that I'm able to use. And yeah, Coach Leonard's another guy that I mean, obviously you play 10 years in the league, you're going to have some type of injuries. And he's a guy that he definitely gives me some tips and things like that too. And he looks after me too, out there at practice and stuff, in terms of just like my player load and how much I'm running and all that stuff. He always gives me tips on how to be under better control and things like that out of breaks and all that stuff, so I can try to minimize those injuries. But yeah, my dad, Coach Leonard, and then really just myself. I've been through so much stuff, even all through high school. I've been through so much stuff in terms of injuries and things, that I'm starting to grow and figure out my own body and figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me, and how I can better contribute to this team just being available.
All right, wrap things up for Trey with one more from Jesse.
I know you had been at cornerback. What was your reaction when Coach Leonard or anybody else came to you and asked if you would go to safety? And you've had an opportunity to watch Collin and Scott. What have you learned from those guys?
I've learned a ton. They're great players, always making plays on the field. And even EB, when he was here, always making plays, always just finding a way to be around the ball. And that's really what I'm looking forward to, just being around the ball and playing alongside those guys. John Torchio too. He's a guy that I get in a lot with in terms of just reps and stuff, always playing alongside him, and just all of us together, just being able to be around the ball, take coaching points and be able to move forward from that. And safety has been, I played a little bit of safety in high school too, so it wasn't like a huge shock to me. And I started getting bigger when I got here. I gained like 20 pounds, so I kind of had a feeling it was going to end up happening eventually. But now I'm excited. I was excited to learn from Coach Leonard. Obviously, he played in the league for 10 years and at that safety position. So the more I can learn from him, the better. And I'm looking forward to just continuing to push my resume and push my career even farther at this university. So.
All right. Thanks, Trey. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. John has joined us. We'll wrap up the safeties today with him, and we'll get started with questions from Jesse.
John, you've had an opportunity to start a couple years ago, but snaps haven't always been consistent given some of the guys who are veterans. What do you envision your role being this season, and what do you think you can add to the group?
Well, obviously Scotty and Collin are the guys right now, and my job is just to compete and try to get them better. I mean, I want to be right on their heels the whole time, and I just want them to know that, I mean, we're all really close, and so we all know that, like, there's always guys who are willing to step in and ready to compete. So just a really good number 2 guy and ready to step in whenever they need me. And playbook wise, someone they can lean on, ask questions to, bounce ideas off of. So I think that's kind of my role for next year. And whenever I get the chance to play, just be ready to step in and fill their role.
Jeff?
Yeah, John, going back to 19, you ended up playing in 8 games last year, starting that one, or excuse me, in 2019. Last year was a weird year, only played in 3. Did that kind of pause your development at all, not being able to get on the field as much in games last year? And what was your goal in the offseason about where you wanted to improve your overall game?
Well, I mean, obviously last year was tough for everyone, and I actually got COVID-19 when everyone kind of did, so I missed some time. So yeah, I took a little step back, but I think just being able to watch, and obviously I was still involved in all the game plans and stuff. I think my understanding of the playbook got better. Maybe on the field I didn't get enough experience, but my understanding of the playbook, which goes a long way. And then can you say, what was the second part of the question?
As you looked at, after the season was over, what you wanted to improve on individually, what were some of the things you said to yourself, I've got to work on these areas?
Mm-hmm. I would just say get my eyes in the right spot, being more sound. I think I have the ability to play. I just need to be more consistent with it. And now that I have that better understanding of the playbook and really understand the whole concept of it, I think I'm better equipped to be more consistent. So I think that was my kind of goal this spring, and it will continue to be my goal going into the season.
Colton?
John, sounds like you've had a really good attitude about it, but I'm sure at times it was a little bit frustrating when the snaps weren't always there for you. How did you kind of get yourself through that, or maintain the attitude that you've had when you weren't getting those snaps?
I mean, yeah, it's always tough. I mean, obviously you want to play, you want to be out there, but Collin Wilder's a guy I always talk to. We always kind of talk about it, always works out, just keep working. He's a guy, fought through an ACL, transferred, and look at him now, he's starting, competing. So I don't know, we just always kind of talk about keep going, things will fall into place. So that's kind of been my mindset. And yeah, obviously I want to play more, and obviously I would like to play more last year, but I get it, and I'm just going to keep going, and I know things will work out for me. So that's kind of my mindset for that.
Steve?
You touched on just now about what Colin's kind of told you, but what's the biggest thing you kind of learned from watching and practicing alongside those guys, Collin and Scott, as you kind of wait your turn?
They're just good leaders, great leaders, and just guys. I know we're friends outside of football, so we're really close. And Colin's the kind of guy we came in together. I mean, we're different ages, but he transferred right when I was a freshman, so we're on scout team together, which really helped our bond. And then Scotty, just over the years, he's really close with Collin, so we've all kind of got close, and they're really good mentors, people to look up to. And those two guys are the guys who understand the defense the most. So it's always talking about concepts and just stuff, and really, creates a bond. And so, yeah, I really look up to those guys, great leaders.
All right, we'll wrap things up for John with one more from Colton.
John, Coach Leonard was talking about how every safety is kind of needs to have that second position or second area of the defense that they can help out in. Where do you think that is for you, or where do you feel like the most comfortable in some of these different packages?
I really like going over the ball and kind of just being off the QB, kind of no threat of getting beat deep, or don't have to worry about a specific man. So I would kind of say that hook area or that linebacker depth, but I don't know, he's putting us in different positions, and we're messing with the scheme a little bit, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm making plays off of it, so I like that. But I would say probably just off the QB in a seam flat hook area.
All right, thanks, Torch. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks.